here. Oof, the computer's just dying. Computer is just dying. All right, there it is. Found it on YouTube. No thanks. Oh my God. All I see is spinning circles of death. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my God. All right. Popsy, leave it. Okay, I hope this is live. I can't even tell. This thing is so dead. It says it's been streaming for 2 minutes and I can't even see what's happening. You can hear me, but there's no video. That's weird. Oh, Falgry, you can go to bed if you were going to go to bed. It's a great idea. For those who can hear me, Friday Night Fights starts in 20 minutes. I got to still help the kids get to bed. So I'll be with you in a little bit for the commentary. Here you can see on Chess Dojo the links to the tournaments. You don't have video either, Falgry? You don't see me? It's like frozen, huh? Really weird. All right. Well, I got to get the kids to bed. In any case, I'll be back soon. Hello. No, indeed, you do not need to be subscribed to play in the tournaments. They are free and open to all, as they are meant to be. All right, let's see. Let's see, get the view right. We've got 6 players in the under 1600 section, so that's nice. Let's get the view of this chessboard just right, so we can see from the A file to the H file. From sea to shining sea. America, America. Blah, 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 blah. All right, well, that looks like a nice fight shaping up there in the under 1600 group. Let us check the 1600 plus group. And they still lack a few players. So anybody over 1600, if you want to play, they'll be happy to have you over there. Chin to Win and Static are awaiting. Greetings, everybody. Anybody new? This is Friday Night Fights, a weekly opportunity for dojoers to play classical games against each other. Sometimes I'm able to provide commentary. Sometimes someone else may pop in my stead and do some commentary on the games. Today I'm going to kick things off, and then I'm going to kick off at some point because I am doing tournament commentary at 4 a.m. So I have to, cut it a little bit short. Oh, I'm not worried, Static. I don't worry about that kind of stuff anymore. It doesn't matter to me who wins anymore. It's just fun to play. Yeah. But what you are going to need in order to beat Chin to Win is you're going to need 2 more people to join your tournament so that it actually happens. Chess.com will cancel it if we don't get 2 more players joining in the next 8 minutes. So we'll see. We'll see. Hey, YouTube, anyone out there? Okay, so, what's up with Jesse? Yeah, poor guy is super sick. I think he might have the flu and COVID at the same time or something. It's brutal. It's death over in his house. The under 1600 has enough players today, FXL. The over 1600 currently lacking. They've got another 5 minutes for somebody or other to wander in. So we'll see. How are folks doing today? Friday for most of you. Maybe already Saturday for some. I had a great day today. The Weissenhaus Super Tournament kicked off in Germany, and I loved it. So it's a fun week here for me. We had our weekly Chess Dojo meeting. That was okay. Sounds good, FXL. Started a new job. Cool. What's your new job, if you want to say? Do you like it? Are you excited for it? It's good that you're off to a good start there. Mighty Penguin, you enjoyed the Chess 960 coverage. Cool. That's great. Glad to hear it. I'm going to have to do some kind of a emergency surgery on my computer tonight after Friday night fights and before sleeping. Did the Discord layout get brought up in our meeting? We did not talk about the Discord layout today, I don't think. No. All right, we've got 4 players in the 1600 plus, so it looks like both sections will be holding tonight. So good news for all of you. Hey, Amy Michelle. The tournament right now is the Friday Night Fights tournament, but Muhahaha was probably talking about the tournament this morning in Germany that they started watching. Fight, night, fight, fight, fight. There's a tournament here for the viewers right now, Amy Michelle. You're welcome to play in it. I know you've played here at least once before when I was commenting. I think your name on chess.com is Michelle Amy instead of Amy Michelle or something like that, if I remember that correctly. As long as the tournaments kick off with 4 players, people will be able to late join throughout the day. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, folks, tomorrow, instead of doing our normal Saturday rapid tournament, we're going to do Fisher Random Chess. Just for 1 week, just because of Bison House. We'll be back to normal chess the week after. But tomorrow morning, we're going to have our normal Saturday morning 15+5 tournament, but it's going to be Fisher Random. So that's that Exclam play that NVFF is hitting over there. Those are the links for tomorrow's tournament. Uh-oh, it looks like you need some spaces in that command. Let me fix Moobot real quick here if I can. It's all messed up. Okay, so it's going to be under 1300 space. $1,300, $1,700 space. 1,700 plus a space there, a space. Okay. Hopefully that'll work better for tomorrow morning. But for now, anyone who's trying to play right now, the command you want is Exclam Fight for today. And those 2 links look like they are fine. Yeah. Hey, Termination. Welcome into the stream. Oh, we got Savage in. Yeah. One of our 2 players with a bunch of A's. Savage A. You're from Canada, and our other player with a triple A is also from Canada. Aaron is also from Canada. All right, games are kicking off, folks. Good luck. Enjoy your games. Mute the stream or close the stream while you're playing. And good luck. Have fun and all that. We've got a battle between Static and Savage kicking off. We got Wandering Puppet and National Master against Chin to win. And Chin the Conqueror. Let me open up my... All right, glad to hear it, Tim. Let me open up my other section here, the under 1600, and open up some of their games for observation as well. We got Boondock Striker up against a Rusty Spork. Yeah, fair enough. You gotta know how to beat a Spork. And we've got a very passive player against Muhahahahas. Then finally, I suck at chess versus Falgri with the Italian game. Nice. Okay, bunch of games. Bunch of games to pick and choose between. It's interesting opening. Here we've got a London system into the queens opposing each other. I hope we get a queen trade, a nice endgame. It's the most obscure chess joke ever. No, I think we understand that chess joke. That one makes sense. So Tim, a hearty welcome to the dojo from my part. There we go. Queen trade, doubled pawns. Okay. Endgame time. Let us know if you need any help or guidance with anything. Now, one of the most important determining things for whether or not these doubled pawns are going to be good or bad is whether or not this one can get to b4 and trade itself off. If it can get to b4 and trade itself off, it will not be a weak doubled pawn. Did you guys know that? However, if it remains on the board, if white has time to play a3 and move the rook off of the a file to I don't want to say pin, but you know, to unhit an attack, that line around the a3 pawn, then white will leave black with these doubled pawns, and then they will be doubled pawns. Exactly, I saw that game too. I thought it looked like a cool one as well. It's between the very passive player, right? And muhahaha, as white started with sort of knight f3 and c4 and stuff, and only played d4 on move 6. And now white's getting 2 bishops on the long diagonals, just like Richard Reti loved. What up, Far Eastern? I wish you a good party. I wish you a good party. You know what's really cool? I sort of had a party at my house this week. I invited some friends over Wednesday evening, and we played games. Yeah, we played something called Tapple, which I'd never seen before. Played some kind of like charades like game. Played Sequence. Played Saboteur, a game where you're sort of like a bunch of little dwarves mining for ore, but one of the dwarves is trying to keep you from getting to the proper ore. Yeah, big success. Hadn't had a party at home for a while, and there were a few chess players there. There were like 2 kids from my high school chess team. Another kid who went to the same school as us 10 years later on the same chess team as us, but 10 years after us. All right, Queen C7 from Muhahahas. The players are really getting all their development done in this game, right? Every minor piece is coming out. Kings are castled. Queens are getting out of the way of the rooks. And then it's going to be a question of, is there anywhere on the board to open up a line for the rooks, or do we just keep maneuvering the minor pieces? Or in this case, white's going to try and grab some space. We'll probably see more moves on the queen side from white. If I were to guess the meaning of this c5 move, it means white's going to want to keep going and grabbing more. Once you grab space, you can't stop generally. All right, this is off to a flying start. Give me 1 second to turn off the light over here. All right, what'd I miss? I missed a prediction. I missed a prediction. I thought for sure White was going to play b4 as well. Knight d2, and they played it pretty quickly, so that was clearly the plan. So what does that mean is on White's mind? Is White thinking of maybe pushing the pawn to e4? Maybe? Maybe. When I'm black and somebody plays c5 against me and sets up this pawn structure with d4 and c5, I immediately start looking at b6 and e5 and then basically play the one that seems best. I almost always just try to break out immediately. That must be Stamen. Yep, I knew it. Stamen, your name was cut off, but I saw a thing that said buying tons. I saw the second through fourth lines. Buying tons of new board games, finally came to my senses around 1,000 games and stopped buying so many. And I was like, that must be Stamen. ZJ also thinks White's thinking about e4 here. All right. Mwahahaha. Playing just like David. That's what I would have done as well. Bonjour, Edis. Oh, and White's intention was e4, so ZJ determined that correctly. e4. So Black could take on e4 or take on d4. Fancy trade coming in. Boom, boom, boom. Black is giving up the bishop pair with this order of trading, but can pick up one free pawn on c5 and behead a pawn. The game will be pretty complicated, though, because White's got these nice crisscrossing bishops on the long diagonals and maybe some ideas on the king side because of the little bit of space and influence that this pawn here gives White on the king side. I'm trying to think if I would take with my bishop or my knight as black. I think I'm leaning towards taking with my bishop, because that gets the bishop off of this file where it was just not on a very good square. Oh man, White was ready for that. They're like playing faster than than my computer can even relay the situation. Yeah, it's particularly White who's playing super fast Far Eastern. I mean, White has basically been adding time to their clock this whole game instead of using time from their clock. You were right to feel that, ZJ. Yeah. Black could play a very fancy move potentially here with d4. I wonder if they're considering that or if they're just looking at the two different directions you can retreat the bishop and sort of thinking strategically, right? Like, here my bishop doesn't attack anything immediately, but it's putting pressure in both directions. Here my bishop kind of pressures f2, but doesn't have a lot of other choices. Yeah, my friend brought Avalon, but we didn't play it this time. We played Saboteur, which has some similarity in that there's, you know, a traitor on your team. D4 is super fancy, right, Far Eastern? But if you see it, the reason I would think about it is because it doesn't give white a lot of good choices, right? So, or it doesn't give white many choices, it seems. So it's kind of a forcing move. If you spot a forcing move, it can be worth evaluating it. The bishop's got almost nowhere to go. If it moves away, then you could take this pawn, which looks pretty decent. So then you're looking at if they take and you take, what happens here, Can they defend this pawn? Can they encircle this one or not? I think maybe it was not super good. It was just an interesting move that popped into my head that would be outside our normal options. Something has caused white to take their first big think of the game here. Options are taking the file, trying to improve this knight, which is currently not sitting well compared to the pawn on d5. So knight b3 and knight f3 are both reasonable options for the knight. Okay, let's see the idea chosen. Queen c2, connecting the rooks. Fast rook e8. Oh, my thing's just not keeping up with how fast they're moving. Wow. Okay, so black's just coming to the e file. And I think black is happy to trade because they're up a pawn. So that went pretty well for black. That sequence came in very fast, though. King f1, presumably preparing rook e1, trading more things. I wonder if white knows that they're down a pawn. It seems like white does not know that. Like it's a secret. Yeah, the center being open like this doesn't always happen in the g3 bishop g2 games. In this game, what the players did was not unreasonable. You see, like black played e5, trying to counter white center, and white played e4. That was their plan to build up the center. Both players executing both plans at once, that's maybe even more unusual, right? And that partly explains why the center is as open as it is. Maybe something like pawn takes, knight takes, b4 might be more standard with just like a partial opening of the center. Of course, you also have a lot of games where they basically huddle like this, d5, c4. They just leave that tension and build and build and maneuver. So that does happen with, no pawn trade sometimes. But here, yeah, it's very open, but white, who's down a pawn, seems not to really have any aggressive plan, just trading pieces, which is fine for black. I If I were to suggest something to try as white, I think to me, instead of king f1 and rook e1, maybe I would do something like h3 and then g4. Sort of trying to connect to my extra pawn here on the king side and see if we can't bully that area of the board and get some kind of advantage for white over there. Although it's not like easy to try and prove that, but I guess you have to try to do something when you're behind, I feel like. So whether or not it's going to work, I would try something in that direction. Black is kind of looking forward to rook e1, but not sure what to do in the meantime. I think queen d8 could be reasonable, so that if white doesn't play rook to e1, you'll have time to go to e8 and sort of take over the file fully. Getting an a5 would be great for black. That's right, a king golf. Can't really do it right now, right? And that's why I think you said getting in a5 successfully, because you know that right here it can't yet be done. This pawn is defended, that pawn would be defended. So something to maybe set up or prepare. My thought is that as soon as white plays rook e1, I'll be able to play it. So I'm thinking I go queen d8, preparing queen e8, taking over the file. If white plays rook e1, then I trade and hit a5. And now I can safely do that because pawn takes a5, bishop takes a3. Recovers my pawn. So that's what I'm thinking, queen d8. Not obvious. You could also play a move like h6 here just to get rid of back rank mate. Considered that as well. And let me see, there was a question in chat that I didn't answer here yet. Okay. I struggle against c4 knight f3 is black, since on Chess.com I almost hardly get games against it compared to e4 and d4. What would be the best way to get better at lesser played openings? Should I try searching for a training partner who plays those openings? Yep. Or maybe study model games? You can do that too. I'm 2000 rapid. Yeah. So your own two suggestions are good suggestions for you. The practice part is even more valuable than the model games. Like I might, look for like 5 model games to play over. And that is in the Dojo training program to do. I might look for like 5 model games to play over in the opening. But then I would definitely want to, spar a bunch of openings with a training partner and get some practice. From both sides, by the way. Trade off playing white and black with your partner to maximize the learning. Wow, long thing from Muhahahas. As one would, hope and expect in classical chess. My computer is not aware that it's dead. It thinks it's mostly not using much of its CPU. Little does it know that it's dead. It does say it's using about 10% of itself just to have a couple Finder windows open. Poor thing. Let's see, did that help you out, computer? I closed the window. Close 3 windows. Nope. Choking worse than before. Still using an entire CPU to keep one Finder window open. Okay. Alright, well, we had a move while I was clicking around. It was knight e5, rook e1, and then quickly knight c4 going for a trade. So we get that trade, but now black's beautiful solid pawn structure is going to be changed a little bit. I'm not sure how strong that'll be. Ooh, also there might be bishop takes f6 in order to then immediately take this pawn. We get a rook trade first, so I guess white didn't see that. It was a very good moment to take the knight. Very, very opportune because when the pawn recaptures, it messes up the structure around black's king. Right, in addition to which white wins this pawn. So this knight e5 to c4 plan was bad, mostly because of bishop takes f6 that it was allowing. Okay, we got some move. Now bishop f6 is good enough for white. But now black doesn't have to ruin their pawn structure on the king, right? The queen can take. And then if queen c4, she could even take the pawn on f5. Or play the much riskier queen a1 check and take the pawn on a3. Yeah, absolutely, Far Eastern. The fact that white's not using their time is just a big advantage to black, who's now done 15 minutes of extra thinking, which is definitely useful. If anyone offered me the right to think an extra 15 minutes compared to my opponents in my games, I would take them up on it. Queen f6, good choice. Very good choice. Beautiful, beautiful. White maybe have to take that pawn and then let black choose their counterattack. Because if white doesn't take this pawn, well, it could advance to c3, and it'll be hard to ever capture it on a dark square, and it'll be pretty close to queening. So it'll tie up some of the white resources. Yeah, I kind of feel like you more or less have to take the pawn as white right here. White's done something. They brought the king towards the situation. Okay, that's a different take. B5 supporting the pawn. Bishop takes c6, trying to take apart the support. Uh-oh. Did black see that coming? Was that part of the plan? You see, well-intentioned. Let's hold on to this pawn. B5 to support it. But the pawn on b7 was actually pretty important to shutting this bishop down. So now it springs to life, recovering that pawn. Maybe a6 to hold things together. But it does seem like b5 brought white's bishop well into the game. Black can also calculate fancy moves like bishop g3 and bishop b4. Also, black maybe doesn't need to defend the b pawn. Like if black played g6 or something, white took, there would be check. And then when the king moves, you grab your bishop. So bishop c6 played. Black's got a range of things they can do here. Yeah. But a big part of their advantage has died down since white's bishop got out of g2 and captured a pawn. Huh. a6, queen into the center. Okay, so black tried to support the whole structure with a6. That makes sense. Make white work to get this pawn chain. By the time you commit the white pieces to a6, you might not be stopping this one from going. Now there's a threat of queen e8 to watch out for. Black throws a check of their own. White comes up, so black can capture a pawn now with check. But then the queen won't be able to get back and stop white from going queen e8. So another option is queen e5. Trading queens, but not making much progress out of queen b2, honestly. Hey, Foos. Hope you're busy with something good. All right, black has snacked the pawn. Absolutely, arching golf. And like, depending what you're thinking, white might be able to go here first, even in some case, and then play bishop d5. Though I guess queen e7 is pretty good. Wow, this is intense. That knight wandering around, that extra knight wandering around black's position, and black's got this full pawn structure, honestly. Just every single one. It's pretty shocking. Players have quite a lot of time to be in such a complicated position on move 4. This was our doubled b pawn game. Doesn't take the knight, just sacrifices. Oh, there goes another pawn. Shoot. I guess bishop b4 seems to be coming otherwise. Huh. Not sure what to do. So b5 took, came back in, pushed, takes, trade, and b5 taking more space. Yeah. So white played knight d7. After some thought, black continued advancing the pawns. They are looking very menacing, these pawns. Wow. I would say very enterprising and exciting play from Rusty Spork. Grab my water. Knight c5, yeah. The knight's trying to get involved on this side of the board to stop these pawns. Somehow it attacks this one. Attacks the rook at the same time. Black's probably going to have to give up a bishop for this knight right now. But if he's careful, these pawns are so good, they're probably better than a bishop. Goes for the trade, yeah. Oh, in our other game, Foos? Let's have a look. Oh, there is a pawn on f6. Wow, that's a lot of counterplay for white. But in the game, let's see how it started. White went straight in here, and you were saying maybe f6 first, preventing the queen from getting back. And if takes, you can get a perpetual like this, probably. That's clever. Yeah, I've seen that kind of approach before. Very clever. So in the game, there was queen e8 and then bishop d5, queen e7. Exactly the line we had guessed, actually, before. And white had to just back off. Yeah. Credit for white finding Foos's move to come into contact with the king side and use that pawn. Now that that pawn on f6 is a real annoyance for white, for black. King's always kind of stuck in there. Not sure what the plan is with bishop e4 here. We'll see. But black's plan of defending that a6 pawn with the queen is a very slow plan as far as winning. And now black just comes out and says, yeah, let's centralize the queen and stop worrying about the a pawn. And now you can push b4 or c3, right? c3 is the choice. Now you'd expect something like queen a2 to try and come defend this square, or bishop c2 to block the pawn. And black's going to have some free reign in the center with the queen. I would really try to clean up as black this pawn on f6 because it scares me. If I can kill it, then my king isn't always in a little box. There aren't always back rank mates and things like that. Queen b7, seemingly allowing c2. I mean, the first variation that occurred to me here was black plays c2, white plays bishop d5, and if I queen, white goes check and checkmate. What the hell with that bishop? But then I thought that if white goes bishop d5, my second thought was we could take the bishop with check to avoid the checkmate on f7, and then get a new piece, but keep the extra bishop. And I think that is completely winning for black as an option in the current position. I think they can just go for that with c2. in peace, and I don't see any reasonable way for white to stop it. As I say that, I notice bishop g6, which is an interesting kind of resource. You know, you have to, this is exactly what you have to watch out for at the end of the game. But I think black can take it. The bishop's covering that. Checkmate. Queen's got no one else to help it, really. Queen b7. Long think. Key moment. Always good to have your long thinks at key moments. Let's go from the passive player to the rusty spork. How's this coming along? Black took the pawn. Bishop h4. Threatening bishop e7 coming. The pawn gets closer to queening. You know, 1 or 2 steps away. b2, support of the bishop. It would be devastating. I was thinking of either f6 or king f8 just to stop white's desired move. Kind of what I was hoping to do. But b3, g4 happens. Okay, in response to this, black could retreat the bishop very simply, like to g6, but black could also just play b2 and give this piece. I don't feel any strong desire to give the piece here, honestly, when I can retreat it so simply. I mean, basically, you could see this as winning in exchange, right? Takes. Please take it. Thank you. Take it. Right, so black's not really sacking to get something, but it's just a little bit messy to me to break up the pawns like this to get that exchange. So I'm thinking it might be simplest to just play bishop g6 or bishop d3. But Rusty Sport continues to make good use of their time. Well done. Hey, King Ulf says, yeah, you could put the bishop on this square here, just taking away space from the opponent's rooks and waiting for b2, b1. Yeah. I agree with that suggestion. Looks pretty good. Check our other game. Okay, so we got queen e5. Just centralizing the queen. Maybe planning to clean this one up. White went for one of the fancy moves we talked about. The big sack. Black takes it. f7. Yeah, king should be able to move. And that sack is not going to do it. That sack's not going to do it. Very passive player, almost at an hour on the clock. Mwahahaha. Being careful. King could go to g7 or h8. They're both winning, but Muhahaha doesn't know that. So they must pay great attention. King g7, excellent move, it turns out. Queen c8 getting behind the c2 pawn. I think a safe approach is to move the b pawn next. That looks very comfortable to me. b4. All right. Bravo. Muhahaha. There goes the g pawn. I didn't even notice we were sacking that. Can we keep pushing? A last-ditch chance for white is something like h5, going after the king. I will, Cross, I will. I will in just a little bit. I'm just watching two little games here. Two little games. And they're already marching past pawns. So g4, bishop dropped back. And the bishop comes around to set up a dark square blockade. Very logical. Bishop a3, good move. Black's got some work to do. Definitely still some work to do. Not so easy. Once the opponent gets control of the dark squares. Yeah, bishop covers all of them. Yikes. I was thinking right here, Rusty, that you could double the rooks like this, and then you're ready to play c3 against almost any move. And if white just sort of gets out of the way of the rook, it doesn't stop this. It just goes like that. Well, black goes here and gets a new queen. I can calculate that it's over at that point. So I would think, yeah, something trying to play here, or, you know, e5, f6, starting to try and get some control of the dark squares is the key here. If you put all your pawns on light squares and your opponent's got the only dark square bishop, they can block an insane number of pawns with that bishop. So it's going to be hard. Yeah, I already don't know what black should do after this bishop repositioning. 4 passed pawns, but I just don't see like anything. Other than just very, very slow, safe play. You know, f6, king f7, e5, king e6. You know, very old man-ish style. But this bishop, I mean, it's killing the whole diagonal and even the ways for black to approach those squares. Yeah, that's right. It's a good point statement. After bishop a3, the reason that black couldn't just play c3 was bishop a6. Yeah. That's why I had thought rook a c6, I get off of this, and I'm attacking c3 so many times now that white can't set up any blockade. The one thing I have to do with my approach statement is be willing to sack the a pawn, right? Like in this one line I showed you, bishop b4, c3, rook takes a4. I'm not coming back to defend the a pawn once I'm doubled behind the c pawn, right? I have to go like this and then play either c2 or b2 here. But I'm pretty sure it's working. It's my style too, Foos. Yeah. I'm on a long winning streak right now in chess.com Blitz. It's probably lasted like 2 weeks or something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row. And it's been all basically old manish style. I just I try not to get an advantage in the opening, just to like play some simple moves and then play the end game. But then I generally like blunder something terrible, so I'm actually like losing the opening, and then I say, well, stop blundering things. That's not helpful. And then I go into the end game down like a pawn or two, and I just win it every time. Of course, as you can tell from it being a 2-week streak, it means I'm playing, 2 games once every 2 or 3 days. It's taking a long time. Or once, yeah. Not a lot of games. But that's also old manish, right? To play like 1 blitz game and then be tired and wait 3 more days. Did your game just end, muhahaha? I was watching your game. I was clicking between it and another one here. So last time we saw this position, folks, was right here. Black had just gotten the 2 pawns to c3 and b3. We're watching 2 different games with black pushing past pawns. You see that, muhahas? So white played f4. Right, I felt the last sort of tricky trick was h5 here, which white didn't try. The point is you're threatening queen g6, king h8, queen g8 checkmate. And if black says, oh my gosh, I better do something about that, then we give this check here. The queen can't get back to defend it. And this gives us some chance of defending because black's not queening this 1 pawn as easily as when there are 2 together. So if h5 were played, yeah, I wasn't 100% sure what black would want to try in response to that, but I thought it was kind of like a slightly tricky move. Maybe this would be the right move, but it has its own feeling of risk, leaving both of these pawns alive near our king. So f4 was the choice. That move doesn't make a very big threat. Well, I mean, it threatens pawn takes queen, but we can get out of that with a check. It doesn't do something that black can't handle. Black offers a queen trade. Sorry, my thing's freezing. Queen trade, that's a nice response. White runs away from it. Black pushes the pawn, looking for a queen. White gives check. And black blocks the check and white resigned right here. Yeah. It's a very good game for muhahahas, that one. Yeah, for sure. For sure there must have been some oh, sorry. Falgri, good game. As you say, things are going well until some kind of a blunder. You can't get away with many mistakes in a dojo tournament, or sometimes any mistakes. So have a good night's rest, and we'll see you again later. And you're very welcome for whatever I do. So yeah, muhahas. As Falgri was just saying with, you can't get away with a mistake. Yeah, we can't see all the ideas, but you seem to cover your king pretty well. Leaving this pawn on f7 on the board so they can't check you on this row here was actually a pretty useful, clever idea from you. You're able to cover this diagonal with their pawn, this row with their pawn, this row with your pawn, and then the diagonal with your queen, and then your king was more or less snugly defended, right? Nice. An extra 100 points, Foos. You must be defending our name with great honor. Let's click back to our other game with the pawns trying to go and see what's happening. We had bishop b2 last time we were here, and I was saying once bishop b2 was played, I don't really see any immediate solution for black to the dark square blockade. Black tries to double up and threaten a3. White just blocks it and says no. And so, yeah, it's going to be a lot more work here for black to make progress. White plays f4, looking to prevent black's idea of e5 and some dark square counter, control. Yeah, brilliant defense, Boondock. Good job to you on this one. And the whole idea of bringing this bishop to b2, oh, and then f4, yeah, you're making it really hard here. Like, if I were black, I'd just be, like, digging deep in my reserves now to keep coming up with stuff, to keep fighting. I would do it because I'm used to it. I fight really hard for my points. But, yeah, definitely making them work. Huh. Here's an interesting idea. Maybe you could go bishop c2. to break the rook's connection with the c3 square. And then if white plays bishop c3, you play e5 with the idea of takes, takes, and if the bishop takes, that allows you to play c3, right? That could be a fancy breakthrough. But man, you know, that you have to work hard there for black, and you don't because it's more complicated of a solution, you don't have certainty that it works. A lot of people will calculate what I just calculated and then say, yeah, but it's risky, I'm sacking some stuff, and I might be missing something. And then they won't play it, even though they've calculated the winning line. You know what I mean? If the winning line is something that like is pushing your own abilities, like it's the maximum number of moves you can calculate, or you know, it involves sacrifices that you're not comfortable with, or it involves defensive moves you're not comfortable with. You know, if in some way the solution is difficult enough that it's pushing the edges of your chess skills and comfort, then sometimes you calculate the entire thing and then simply don't go for it because you don't believe, right? So you need to make the game that difficult for your opponents, basically, right? So that even if they can see a way to win, it's sort of at the edge of their capabilities, and they may or may not go for it. You know, like I had a game, this was even on a day when I was in really good form last year. I was playing a great game, I was feeling good, I was into it, and the game hit like a point of complexity. I was kind of crushing the opponent, but I got a little... But he, you know, he went in for some complications, and I said, okay, now's the moment I have to like just bear down and calculate the forced win. And I calculated some variation, and I said, well, at the end, I've got this one pawn hanging. It's a little bit complicated. When I go back and look at the game in analysis, I play out all the moves to that position, and I say, okay, I guess he could take this pawn, but then he'll have to resign on the next move. Because basically I have like forced checkmate, and the opponent can give one more spite check taking the pawn, and I would have to move my king away, and then they could resign. So I'd calculated basically to the final position where the opponent resigns, but I was like, well, you know, they're taking a pawn while saying check, like it feels complicated, maybe I've got something easier, right? So you don't even necessarily always need to find a defense to save a game against somebody. That's part of the secret, right? You need to make the game hard enough that they don't trust themselves even if they see the win. It's an OTB game, ZJ Termination. OTB game, classical. You know, I was in top form. I did eventually win the game anyway with some other variation I found, but it's still like the example that popped into my mind about this theme of making it hard for your opponent, even if the line is literally losing for you, right? You make it hard for them. That's always giving you chances that the opponent will sort of like give up on the variation. So, yeah, Stamen saying it's common to not trust deep calculations. And Akingolf says, like, when you feel like there might be some kind of losing chance, then everything feels harder, right? And you feel less comfortable in your decisions, right? So if I were to say for black that we're going to go this bishop c2 line that I just came up with, right? Bishop c3, e5, sacking a pawn, takes. Here, I put this on the board for you guys as spectators. You look at this and you say, okay, I think David's idea looks pretty sound, right? Like, how does white stop b2 and queening? But if you're looking at this in a game as black, you're like, I just sacked a pawn. I'm not sure what my threat is. They've got lots of possible moves. I haven't calculated bishop f3 going after that. You know, there's maybe rook takes c2, and they could take the pawn on c3. I worried about that for a moment when I was calculating the line before putting it on the board. Now that it's on the board, I mean, I can see that if white takes, and takes on c3, black can queen the c pawn at the end, right? Once it's on the board, it all becomes clearer. But looking at this from a distance, you're like, oh, you know, maybe white's got some tactic with taking on c3, taking on c2 or something. Maybe bishop f3 with a counter shot. You know, you don't feel certain, right? Because this position's murkier when it's in your imagination than when it's on the board. So in that sense, I see that as like a good good defensive play. But wow, bishop c2 was played by Rusty Spork. Bishop c3 trying to block it. And now they're thinking some more. Okay, so this is the position where I'm thinking about e5 for black, but it's, it's far from certain. And by the way, if white doesn't take the pawn on e5, what's the idea? The idea is to sack it again on d4. You guys see that? That's how we're slowly breaking through the dark squares. Okay, rook b6 is the move in the game, re-threatening this, so we expect the bishop to come back here. You could then also play some kind of a sacrificial breakthrough then, right? Either c3 or e5. If white plays bishop b2 like we might expect, you could go c3, bishop c3, b2, bishop b2, rook b2. Black regains the bishop for a couple pawns, but still, with pretty decent chances of winning the endgame. Yeah, bishop f3 is a bit messy there, right? Can white prevent the e5 move if they got a free move, right? Like in a position like this one here, or with rook b6, bishop b2. I think probably not. I think probably black has so many pawns and resources here that they can just play e5 against pretty much anything. Achingolf is saying something would temporarily stop it. Bishop f3 first. Okay, yeah. So if white plays bishop f3, that would temporarily stop e5. If they had time. Oh, right. So it's like, let's say black doesn't play e5 here, but they play h6. You could play bishop f3, as Achingolf says, and now you're not going to play e5, bishop d5 check, bishop takes c6. Right? So now black would have to do something like get the king off of that diagonal, or move the king all the way to d6 to protect the pawn. There's nothing wrong with bringing the king up. But yeah, certainly a good question. Okay, sorry, we're here after rook b6. It's white's time thinking. We'd expect bishop b2, but Boondock Striker is taking some time to consider the options. Which makes sense when the position's tough, which it has been this whole endgame. What Boondock Striker has done is played very, very good defense for the last 10 moves in this bad position. No, I didn't see your game, Mighty Penguin. Not really. I've been watching, going back and forth between two games. This one here between Boondock Striker and Rusty Spork. And then another game that was played between Muhahahahas and who was the opponent? A very passive player. Yeah, this game could have been totally depressing for white, but he's played a lot of good defensive moves. Yeah, bishop b2, c3 is one option for black here, if white goes for bishop b2. And my preliminary calculation says black will get the bishop back in exchange for 2 pawns. So, hello. What happened last week? I don't know what happened last week. I had lost my voice from being sick, so I didn't do commentary. So I don't know what did or didn't happen with the games or the tournaments. Am I paid to commentate this? That's a very good question, Mitt Romney's dog. I am. Our free content, Chess Dojo has a few channels for free content, right? Twitch, YouTube, and then some podcasts that we put out. That stuff is supported by donations. So we have like some people who are patrons on Patreon. We have some people who make donations now and then, and sometimes people who pay for subs on Twitch, which we don't really encourage people to do because Twitch gets like 55-60% of it or something, and we don't really want you giving money to Twitch. But yeah, we get paid something like 50 cents an hour to do it, if you count up the donations and stuff, I guess. I lose my voice often. I mean, it was from being sick, not from talking too much. I was so sick that even if I had my voice, I would not have commentated on Friday. Last Friday, I was actually in bed for 2.5 days while my partner took care of the kids. And I think one of the reasons I get sick a lot is that my kids bring home a lot of diseases. Another is that often I don't quite sleep enough, and then, your body's not as strong if you haven't slept. Bishop D1, interesting. So now if black trades, which they do, B2 allows rook B1. And white kind of catches that pawn successfully. Wow. You had to go to work anyway, yeah. I mean, I guess that is definitely a benefit of being my own boss, is when I'm sick, I can just choose whether or not to work. The not benefit is your boss probably pays you more than 50 cents an hour. Maybe if I was getting more than 50 cents an hour, I'd have to work through being sick. Who knows? The Chess Dojo is run by myself, Kostya Kavutskiy, and Jesse Kraai, 3 chess teachers, and then also DM Hoki, our graphics and operations and all sorts of things guy. And then we've got some other people working on the project who will all hopefully also become owners over time. A genius programmer, Jack. Yeah, I noticed that ZJ termination. I had been logged out of Chess Dojo and I wanted to check the stream from my personal account, Pruess, just to see, like, is the stream running correctly, right? And it was like 3 minutes of ads to try and check if the sound and video were working. Yeah, ZJ, and it's been growing, because of the training program. We've got people in various part-time roles, managing our social media, doing some marketing for us, doing some organizing of events and community managing and answering customer support tickets, because it was all growing to be more and more work for us. Okay, rook b3 was the clever idea from the Rusty Spork, hitting these pieces quite seriously. I think white's going to feel the need to trade. No, they tried bishop b2. Fancy pantsy. Love it. Love it. Now, interesting moment. Black could potentially play rook a to b8, and I think it would win back the piece, but I don't know how many other options they have that work, and I don't know if they're going to find that one. That's pretty much the only thing I see for black here that looks pretty clear. Aking Ulf and ZJ, similar. Absolutely, Mitt Romney's dog. We always need some volunteers. Yeah, you just want to do something to help the crew. NVFF, I've spent much of my life as a teacher in various different ways. Like, my first job was teaching, was tutoring when I was 12, tutoring math and French. At 13, I started teaching swimming lessons. At 14, I started teaching chess. So I don't know about a career before chess, but technically I was a tutor and a swim instructor before I became a chess instructor. Oh, black backs off. See, because your instincts as black are not to trade rooks, right? And this move allows a rook trade. But it turns out if white makes the rook trade, then after rook takes, which again is not your instinct is to always advance these pawns towards queening, right? So to find this variation, Rusty Spork would have had to see two non-instinctive moves. But you set up this opposition between the bishop and rook, and white can never move those pieces out of it successfully, right? So black will always win back at least the bishop here. And that would have been winning, but hard to see. Very hard to spot. So black backs off with rook b4. And you see Boondock Striker's epic defense is paying dividends, right? I was very good at math and BFF, yeah. Or I mean, relative to other kids or whatever. Sorry, I don't want to turn that into a boast or something. I was just trying to tell you that you were sort of correct. And then, then I did a whole bunch of different jobs when I was in college. I worked in a printing press. I did management consulting for 6 months. Then I worked on, when I graduated, I went and worked on a political campaign. Then I founded a brick and mortar chess club, did some more chess for a bit. After that, I was a professional player briefly, went around the world playing chess tournaments. Then I stopped playing chess tournaments and did another chess gig. I worked at chess.com for several years, doing content and events and professional relations and stuff like that. And then I had kids and spent a lot of the last 10 years raising my kids. Also worked as a school teacher. Yeah. Oh, actually, between my chess club and being a professional chess player, I taught high school English in China. And then after the chess.com thing and while I had kids, I did several stints as a school teacher, teaching, normal schools, like between kindergarten and junior high, English, French, social studies, stuff like that. So a few different things I've done. Rook a1. Now we get the rooks doubling on the b file. Ay. See, now it was logical for Rusty Spork without the rook trade on offer, Now it seems logical and they go for it. And it still looks pretty effective. Because how do you defend b1 and b2? I just don't see it for white, even now. It seems wrong that Boondock Striker should play so many great moves and not be rewarded by saving the game. Doesn't it seem sort of wrong? Like, what's the reward for playing a ton of good moves and still eventually losing? Well, it's that you played well. It's that you made the game more fun for yourself and your opponent. Your opponent can thank you for the fact that it was a tough game afterwards instead of having to win an easy game. I don't have a teaching degree, NBFF, and I didn't want to get a teaching degree. I had done so much teaching from such a young age, right? By the time I was finishing college and people were thinking about, getting things like teaching degrees, I was like, I have 10 years experience teaching. I was teaching yeah, I mean, I had so much experience. I was like, what's the point? So I was and still am extremely loath to ever get a teaching degree. It's also like, I don't know if you've heard this, NVFF, but at some point, FIDE, the International Chess Federation, they decided that they were going to create official like chess trainer certifications as a way to make money, basically to sell people like a piece of paper that tells you that you're a certified chess teacher. And I was like, I'm never going to go pay them money to be a certified chess teacher. I know about Magnus's quote. Some people think that if their opponent plays a beautiful game, it's okay to lose. And I agree with the some people in this case, not with Magnus. But, you know, for different people, different ways of life, you know. I had an opponent beat me, and they didn't even play a beautiful game recently, and I still thought, like, cool, that's good for them. All right, Boondock Striker finds the best defense, which is to keep rooks on the board so the endgame's as complicated as possible, and against rook b2, rook takes a4 will be played. Seriously playing all the best defensive moves for, like, 15 moves in a row now. Chess is a brutal game. Yeah, I mean, from Magnus' perspective, he's good enough that no matter how well you play, he should still get a draw, right? That's sort of like his level of chess. I've never played well enough to get accustomed to that kind of a feeling. I've always felt like if somebody plays well, they'll probably beat me. I haven't read anything about that, Glassy Boy. Sorry, no knowledge or comment from me on that. You're correct, Loopies. Whenever you said rook b8 was dangerous, you were probably correct. It was the decisive move in this game so far. Black goes for a rook trade, simplifying the task. Makes sense. The rook on c1 is also specifically the rook that's stopping this pawn from queening. So if white trades and black takes with check, and the king moves, you know, c3 will already be a tempting option for black right away. I mean, it depends on your skill level in rook endgames, right? Mitt Romney Sog, whether or not it's an easy win. If you were Magnus Carlsen, he would probably say it's an easy win, and if I don't win it, I'll be mad at myself. But then if you ask somebody rated 600, they would say, you know, I have no idea. Which show are you thinking of, Ridge himself? Are you thinking of Pardon Our Blunders? Our talk show? Yeah. Yeah, we haven't done it in a long time. I've been inviting Danny to come on Dojo Talks to join us as a guest. Relive the old days. As far as what became of it, you know, when I left chess.com, we stopped doing the show together. And I don't know that Danny ever did it with a host other than me. I mean, he'd be welcome to if he wants to. But I don't know that he ever did. Oh, look at that. White tries to defend their bank rank and keep this pawn blocked. I mean, really uncannily strong defense from Boondock Striker. Really deserves to have some way of scoring, you know, a quarter or an eighth or a something of a pawn with such incredible play. And Ridge himself, you know, this talk show I do with Jesse and Kostya, when we first started it, for me, it was partly inspired by exactly that show, right? So Dojo Talks is partly inspired by Pardon Our Blunders. But on Pardon Our Blunders, Danny and I usually like to have like a list of 6 or 7 topics to like smash through, right? And Kostya, Jesse, and I usually now take one topic and go deep with it. We have done maybe 10 episodes out of 140 where we did like bang, bang, bang through several different topics. But with the three of us, we somehow settled into and found our own thing, right? Which is doing these deeper dives into one topic and presenting a few different perspectives about it. I have not seen the movie Whiplash, not that I know. Rook A1, good move. You can start bringing the king towards the fight. You could put the rook behind the passed pawn. You could play E5, trying to set up a second passed pawn. These are all hard choices to make. I mean, Boondock's not making anything easy here. Now I think you're going to want to position the rook on C7 for maximum difficulty. And I think you will. When do we do Dojo Talks? We recorded at a different time every week, pretty much, Ridge himself, because now there's three of us to coordinate, and I've got kids, and Jesse's got kids, and Kostya's still playing actively in tournaments. So we have to, every week we have to find time in our schedules when we can record it, and then, yeah, then it gets published. Also, for the first 3 years, we always recorded it live on Twitch and YouTube and stuff. And now, as of maybe 1 month ago, we record it off air and then just push it public after it's edited. So we don't do it with a live audience right now. Oh, there we go. E5, trying to push for more passers. I would also consider rook b7, actually, just because rook check is so annoying to this king. You have to keep babysitting your g-pawn. You get pushed into passivity. I think this is the first time that maybe Boondock Striker didn't play the best defenses with this king f1 move versus rook a7 check. I think it's pretty annoying. We'll see. Like, if I were black and somebody played rook a7, rook c7 against me, I'm not sure I would even know how to win this endgame anymore. You won your game, NVFF. Great. Where I currently live, Berkeley, which is pretty close to San Francisco. You think you should have just gone e5? Maybe you should have just played rook c8, Mitt Romney's dog, right? Just keeping that white rook from getting too active from the starting position, right? Since I'm so scared of rook a7. Maybe that tells me that the priority is getting the rook behind the passed pawn. There's no time for this rook to go active then because of c3 and stuff, right? And then from here, you know, we can play king f7 and rook c7 and e5 and slowly roll everything. Maybe that would have been a good approach, yeah? Is e5 not totally crushing? It might be. e5 immediately. Maybe. What are you thinking? Like against rook a5, what would you go for? You go rook d8. Okay. And then let's say I go like here. You're a little bit frozen, right? A little bit. Then you go d4. Yeah. I mean, this is probably one way to win. That's really going to tie white down. There's a few difficulties left, maybe. But I'm thinking maybe getting behind your lead pawn. You see why I have this instinct now, right? Of getting behind the lead pawn and just trying to tie your opponent to the c pawn immediately. Might be the clearest, but I was definitely not sure when we first hit this endgame, right? Not without really thinking it through. Now black looks nice with the connected passers. Okay, suddenly lots of questions in chat. When will Dojo 4.0 of the training program be out? May 1st, Glassy Boy. Each year it comes out on May 1st. ZJ Termination tells us about Whiplash, a very great movie about a guy with the desire to be one of the greatest drummers of all time, and that journey would be something that other chess players would understand and feel. My experience teaching in China, right? I mean, it's such a great learning experience when you go to another country. I mean, I can't tell you about the experience in 2 words or even 20 words, right? Like, when you go to another country, you learn so much. It's so interesting and intense. I mean, I learned all kinds of interesting things. I can more tell you like 1 or 2 random interesting things than like a whole roundup. But like, for example, I noticed that there was a kind of inverse racism or like a positive racism, the opposite of racism. Like, people were nicer to me, a foreigner, than they were to each other, if that makes sense. So it was like, it's based on, they're saying like, oh, look, he's white instead of Chinese. So it's sort of like based on like a racial kind of profile, even though I understand that race is not a biological thing, but hopefully you see what I'm talking about. And then they like recognizing that by looking at me, they would then treat me differently than other people, except in this case, they would treat me better, not worse, right? They wouldn't like enslave me or something like that. They would be polite to me and talk to me and like show me around town and stuff like that. The food was great. Really, really, really great. Yeah. And cheap. I don't know how cheap it is now because, it was probably 17 years ago. But yeah, food was great. Rook a7 check, pushing the king back. Now you're going to get behind a pawn. He's going to push it. The pawns are too far gone, I think, for white to stop them. Actually, can this king get here in time? I guess they'll go self-propelled. Rook b2, rook d2, that mechanism. Yeah. I was thinking that this might be a good move here. d3, actually. Pushing the pawn to the rook is not behind. And if it takes, you have this idea of check. Getting control of the queening square in advance. The pawn was keeping the king from approaching, right? And now d2. And you win the game. So I played d3. And I think that's easier to win perhaps than c3. Just a little combo to know, right? Cool, NBFF likes that one. King e2 coming in. Now you've got to know the self-propelled pattern, rook b2 to d2. That's like the only way, otherwise you get blockaded here. Yeah, so in terms of what we're watching here, Ridge himself, these are just members of our community playing very slow chess games against each other. We do this every Friday night. And, we watch the games and talk about them. Another thing I noticed was that the students weren't taught like critical thinking or reasoning at all. Like they couldn't reason. They knew lots of stuff. They were nice. They had interests, but they didn't know how to reason. Oh, Rusty Spork finds it. The game had reached that point where it was like, unless you see one idea, you're not winning the game anymore. And Rusty did find it. Yeah, we call this show Friday Night Fights, Ridge himself. To indicate that it's intense, right? It's a real battle. But we're actually, friendly with each other off the board. It's not a bloodthirsty or mean crowd here. But this is part of like the dojo way, right? We practice to get better, and we practice playing slow games. So we slow down and we like put everything we have into a game. And then afterwards we reflect on that game and get better and rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. So here the king should be forced out to like e4. And then I would play c2. Just trying to advance the pawns, you know, and put this rook on a short leash. But, you know, it's like it's a very close call by this point. You know, because you have to do this. The king can come here. You have to do that. To avoid getting back rank mated while you're queening, right? If white starts giving checks, it's not even that obvious. But you can get out like this. And they don't have time to take these anymore because you're queening. So it's tricky. Oh, no, not c2 played yet. King e4 is the live position. Yes, I agree with your sentiment, DH Germany. It is a shame that people can't just be honest and decent. But, you know, they don't have many good examples of anyone getting ahead in society by being honest or decent, right? When they look at all the leaders in the world in business and politics and every other endeavor, you know, even in academia, as we found out, right? Like people are stealing papers and plagiarizing and stuff. Einstein would be an exception, Dabo, but Einstein hasn't been around for a while. Yeah, it's definitely not 40% cheaters in the dojo. So if you play in chess dojo tournaments like this, you won't be playing against a cheater every every other game. Yeah, white's got a couple sneaky ideas, right? Going on the counterattack with the king. Boondock has turned this game into an epic. And this also, I think, is an interesting argument and point, which to me Boondock is making here, which is this. Oh, actually, I see maybe an even sneakier idea. Oh, I might even see a way for Boondock to save the game. Oh, not quite. Oh, man. But really sneaky. So, yeah. He go to d6 instead of e6, right? And just try to set up a perpetual instead of a checkmate. That's even sneakier. Yeah, you guys already sniffed it out. Good on you. That's super cool. Okay, the point I wanted to make is sometimes the greatness of a game can actually be made by the side that defends rather than the side that attacks. Even if the side that defends loses, right? Like if Boondock Striker eventually lost this game, what made this game so epic? It was actually what made it epic for him. It was actually that Boondock Striker put up such great defense, right? That's what's going to make the game epic if Rusty eventually wins it. Sorry, if Rusty Spork wins, right? If Rusty Spork eventually wins, it'll be an epic game because of the excellent defense that Boondock Striker contributed to it, right? So it's like you make this work of art together. Sometimes the losing player actually contributes a lot. Yeah, so okay, so here's what I was thinking. Black should play d3 here, defending the pawn, right? Preparing rook d1. And white plays king d6. This prepares to play check, check, and the king can never quite approach the rook because it lacks e7, right? It can only go to f7, e8, etc. There is at least one way out of this perpetual, probably two, honestly. But this is like a simple way out, is you go rook e2 and then you block. And that's the end of that. ZJ Termination, not only did I hear that story, I witnessed it, basically. I witnessed it on the day of. And I called up my old friends at chess.com and I was like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? But it gets exactly at what I was saying, right, after that initial complaint from DH Germany. I was saying people, you know, in modern society, people don't have examples of anyone being honest and decent and then being successful, right? Because, like, how do you think that billionaire became a billionaire? He became a billionaire by cheating, right? Just like what he did when he played chess. It was obvious that the dude would cheat. You know? No surprise. Cheated all his life, right? Like when people in the U.S. talk about whether or not people are cheating in elections. Duh! Suddenly Democrats think that the Biden campaign didn't cheat when every other campaign ever in U.S. history cheated. And the Trump campaign, and the people who vote for Trump, they think the fact that Biden cheated in the election is a reason to vote for Trump. Like, they think Trump didn't cheat just because he's complaining about Biden cheating? Trump cheated in all his business dealings, cheated on all his wives, and you think he didn't cheat in the election? Like, how stupid are we really? What did chess.com think this billionaire was going to do? If they choose to associate with people who are fraudulent people, they're going to get a lot of fraud. The most legit ever. Yeah. And then when Trump wins, they have to be like, oh yeah, but the Democrats cheated anyway, but we won because we stopped some of their cheating. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's how you won the election, was by stopping some of the cheating. That's the story. That's the story. So that's the problem, DH Germany. All the people who are, successful, so to speak, that are obvious examples to people in society looking at what they should do, they're all cheaters. And then people go and they cheat on the chess programs too. So, king d5. Let's see where we're at. g6, making some space for the king. Okay, but white's not out of tricks yet, right? The king can try and get in here. And he does. Oh, it's still so intense. This is why g6 is not my favorite way to make luft for the king, because it actually gives more squares where the white king can get in, and there's still counterplay here. Still counterplay. A millionaire, many times over NVFF, but he's getting ahead of other people because he's sketchy, not because he's a better chess teacher than everybody else. Oof. I almost wouldn't want to be Rusty Spork anymore. This is so intense. It's not a rumor, it's a theory, Dabo, that anyone who's succeeding is cheating. It's a theory. It has yet to be disproven. No, it's not everybody. It's not like a law, it's like a rule of thumb, right? It's a mostly case. So there will be some exceptions. And yeah, maybe Levy's an exception. I would just be shocked. But my definition of what's being decent and honest is, maybe stricter than some other people's definitions. And that's probably partly because of how my mom raised me, and partly because I've had a sufficiently privileged life that I could afford to have, strict standards of morality. So I'll just tell you guys one thing that I've learned about online, the competition in the ecosystem of online chess streaming, teaching, etc. Right? This is just one little thing that I've learned recently. When you put a video up on YouTube, you can pay YouTube to show your video to more people. As Muhahahas is saying, yes, a lot of cheating in life is encoded as being legal. Therefore, some people may not think it's cheating. They'll be like, oh, it's perfectly legal, right? So check this out. On YouTube, when you upload your video, you can pay YouTube to show your video to lots of people, thus continuing to increase your viewer count and, how much your other videos eventually get seen and your income and all that. So basically, to a certain point, you can just buy your views, and then you can try and make money off of your views after that. And basically, that's so that YouTube can make more money, I guess, is why they designed their things that way. But sure, you're paying for advertising, but anyway, we can have different perspectives on it. Static. To me, like, everybody should just put their videos up, and people should watch the videos that they like. Paying to put your videos in front of everybody is not like a normal way of exactly statement. Many people say if it's legal, it's the right thing to do, or it's an okay thing to do. So I have stricter standards than that. And Chess Dojo has done that with some of our videos recently. That's how I found out about it. Because Jesse or somebody in the Chess Dojo figured out you could do that. And oh man, look at this. Now white allows black to queen, threatening checkmate. Incredible. Rusty's like, how many times do I have to win this darn game? Yeah, some people think if it's legal, it's the right thing. Some people think if you can get away with it, it's the right thing, So, like, at one point, Trump was, like, cheating on his taxes. And he said, like, well, yeah, but that shows that I'm smart because I did it and I got away with it. Like, anyone who didn't cheat on their taxes was just being an idiot. They should have thought of it or should have done it. Like, if you get away with it, that makes it right. Do all the big YouTubers do that? I don't know if they all do it, NVFF, but I would guess that most of them do. And am I against it? Yeah. Winning a chess game is never easy, says Swap. And that has never been more true than in this battle here for our friend, the Rusty Spork, who's still trying to queen that c-pawn gamely. By now, white's got their own candidate for making a queen. But, yeah, black should have a queen first here. I think rook c7 is the most resilient move still. So there's a chance that Boondock plays it, but maybe there's something even better. I mean, the problem with rook c7 is white does have this idea of d2, right? And then you take on c2 and they get a queen. So it might almost be trickier to take here, let white queen and try and get your own queen. I don't know. You see something better, Dabo? Yep, that would be okay with me, Static. I haven't heard about the speedrunner named Todd Rogers. I'm not sure about that argument either, DH Germany. I can see both sides of the arguments I've seen around speedruns, like that they create good educational content and that they could also somehow, corrupt the view of the game for some people, right? I can see how some people could be like, I understand both sides of that argument, basically. I mean, I'm not pumped about advertising, period, Static, but I don't categorically fault anyone for any advertising. But like the thing about the YouTube thing is, it's because they're not just. So it'd be different if you run a paid ad on YouTube, right? Even that would be different if you see my reasoning, Static. You know how sometimes on videos it runs an ad? So you could make an ad saying like, Chess Dojo, we've got lots of cool videos, you should watch them. And we could pay to put that as an ad out on other videos. And that could partly be okay. The problem is almost like you're paying for people to watch the video and then saying, oh, look, I've got 1 million views. But literally you paid for those views. You know what I mean? Like you didn't just advertise videos in some way and then people chose to go and watch the videos. You literally paid to just stuff the videos in people's faces. Okay, someone says that we've had a move. Rook c7, d2. Rusty Spork is like, I'm not letting go of this win. I know you're making it hard for me, but I'm not letting go. And now it's down to the last pawn. Oh, Rusty did it. Rusty did it. Do you see my point, Static? I know it may seem obscure and wrong. I don't necessarily mean I'm, I said from the beginning other people will have a less strict sense of cheating than me. But I could just give YouTube, $10,000, have 10 million views on my videos, and then say my videos are the most watched and best chess videos, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone can just pay money for views, NVFF. Yeah. GG to both players. Good Lord. Yeah. And I mean, the blame, Static, is almost more on YouTube than on anybody who does it, right? Because they've created a system where instead of people choosing content based on how good it is, YouTube is choosing it based on money, right? And so then if somebody doesn't do it, they're setting themselves behind. I could imagine someone saying, well, I know now that I see this is available, I know my competitors are doing it, I have to do it or whatever, the system is like just set up so badly, right? That like the value of the videos is judged by how many views they have, but the number of views is simply for sale. I don't know, like anyway, the next day of I'm so tired. The next day of the Weissenhaus Super Grandmaster tournament is starting in 6 hours. So I gotta fall asleep for a moment. I don't hate the player muhahahahas. I just disapprove of them and choose not to associate with them if I can. That was a fantastic game. Bravo to all our fighters, all our gladiators. To everybody who wants to play more chess, you know, these tournaments run for 24 hours. So you can find them here under fight. You can join, you can play, even when I'm not on commenting, of course. Additionally, tomorrow morning, after the Weissenhaus tournament, we're having our normal Saturday tournament, except we're going to be playing Fischer Random chess instead of standard chess, just this Saturday in honor of the Weissenhaus tournament. So yeah, big stuff, or a lot to do tomorrow as well. So I'm going to grab a little bit of sleep. You guys may or may not want to sleep a little bit. Could be a good thing to do, or you may have better things to do. And, you know, I wish you all the best. Thanks for hanging around and the lively discussion. And, yeah, I'll see you all soon.